It's productivity time.
It's productivity time.
It's productivity time with UPvisor
And Blue Ninja.
Everybody, welcome back to this week's hashtag productivity. There we go. And I'm chatting to Judy Taylor from the Blue Ninjas again this week. Unfortunately, Louisa was unable to attend today, so I will be standing in, and we've got Taryn Koen in here with us as well. So Taryn, I'm going to hand over to you. Go for it.
So hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. Last month, the ladies discussed streamlining your business, and they discussed ways of reducing the stress by mapping things out, planning and taking back control of your business operations, team morale and costs. So this month we're going to talk about how to deal with being too busy. And it's that never-ending to-do list. I'm sure we've all experienced that before, and you're just trying to tick it all off, but more things just keep coming. So this is something we all feel as small business owners. So what can we do when we're too busy?
Yeah, we really do feel this. And when you're supporting other businesses, you're not necessarily generating the task, it can feel a little bit out of control. The first thing I'd say is have boundaries in place. What I mean is by this is just because you're home, because it's a pandemic, doesn't mean you work all the hours. Don't just react to something. Unless the house is on fire, just stop and think, does this need doing now? Does it affect anything else? Do I need to involve anyone else? Sometimes grouping things together and dealing with them at the same time really can resolve things, rather than just jumping on each message, email and request as a standalone thing. Just look if they're connected with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on what it is or what's happening on that day, if you really need to focus on something, make sure that you're blocking some time off in your diary. Turn off notifications, put your phone aside, really go into like airplane mode, for lack of a better word, and really focus on the job on hand. And then once you've done that, really start looking at moving on to the next thing. I have really found that there's a massive benefit in going into a little bit of a deep workspace. So really just making sure that you're getting that stuff done. Because not everything can have the same urgency and importance. So even when we're working in a live environment for maybe an event or something like that, it often still requires triaging tasks and things that need to be done, whether it's urgent and whether it affects a lot of people, and maybe it's low priority. And just because one person is asking or demanding it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have a significant effect overall. So really think about what that means in your business as well.
So would you say then to manage business productivity is the key?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we love, productivity. People can't work in a busy environment that's non-stop, day in, day out, unless you work in, say, a call centre where you have to plan for those potential busy times. But also don't beat yourself up. There's only one of you, unless you're lucky enough to have some more support. And you can only complete a finite number of tasks yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Judy. Like, I think we sometimes think that we have to do it all on our own, right? And that we have to be the master of everything. But if we are working on our own and we feel like we don't have any external support, it can feel like if you don't do it, then it won't get done, And that can be really hard when we put so much pressure on ourselves to achieve so much. But really, who's going to know? Like, you're the only person, right? So you're the one putting pressure on yourself. Mm-hmm. And I know that's something that I've really had to deal with. Like, I know my business can grow as fast or as slow as I choose to, based on how much pressure I'm putting on myself. So like, if you don't post something on social media for one day, I mean, what's going to happen? No one probably even knew that you were planning on posting something on that day. So probably nothing is going to happen. So try not to sweat the small stuff, right? Manage what you can. And the big ticket items are really the ones that you need to focus on. And the rest will just naturally happen when there is time available.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And what would be your top tips for productivity to managing your never-ending to-do list?
I love the fact that sometimes we have long to-do lists, because it gives us an opportunity to actually make our lives better. So make sure that you're planning firstly, even if it's just for yourself. It really helps us to focus on what's most needed and when it needs to happen. And if you think about it, going through this process will work out the sequence of events that will affect one another and what will have the most impact as a result thereof. And always be ready for something to go wrong and for some things to be out of your control, because it happens. Like, life happens. It could really throw you off though if you aren't planning for it. And plans go out the window and we get overwhelmed and distracted, and we sometimes just need to take a moment to breathe and realize that life happens. So things happen. Just make sure that you don't overpromise and get yourself in a situation where you've actually overstretched yourself.
Yeah. And I think prioritization is a powerful skill, and flexibility, especially if you're working in a high-powered environment. If 3 things have the same priority, what is the time available for one of those things can be completed in? That will help you focus on what should be done when. Put your hand up for help. You may be trying to do something you've never done before, and asking someone who knows about it can give you hints and tips of where and how to start. Also, don't be afraid to say no, as long as you can say why you can't do something and what the situation, a solution, alternatives could be. If you keep saying yes to everything, you just build in a big issue for yourself, and something has got to give.
And often that's us, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say as well, that is so true. Sometimes you feel like you have to say yes to everything, but you don't. You can say no and just sometimes choose yourself, first, or prioritize in that way. So are there any tools that you'd recommend?
Yay, this is my favorite question. I know that we talk about tools every month, but we have said this again and again. Really make sure that you're using what works for you. And if you're working on your own, you might find that things that work for a team maybe don't work for you if you're working on your own. But if you are working within a team, think about how you're going to go ahead and share information. How are you going to make sure that you are communicating clearly and that you also have a little bit of accountability in terms of what they're working on? Sometimes using a simple tool is actually really powerful, and one of those could be by setting up a good filing structure and naming of your document so that there's no uncertainty about what the latest, most up-to-date version of a document is and where it has been saved. I know that the Blue Ninjas have a little blog about this that they can share in the comments, so please do go ahead and do that. But I just want to maybe just pause a moment here. I have had so many issues with clients that do not manage version control very well. You do valuations or budgets or forecasts, and things keep changing and different people are working on the same document, and then actually you end up in a situation where the final decision is not made based on the final version. So it's really something that we need to be focusing on, and I think some of my assistants can really relate to the fact that my filing is quite poor. So do as I say and not as I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can manage tasks by a list on a document, a Kanban board, or having regular check-ins with your team to ensure your team members are clear on what needs to be done by when. Communication is a key, but don't just have meetings for the sake of it. Placeholders are useful. You can block out your diary, but then evaluate if you still need them. So that's what we tend to do in advance, even for these sessions, and then we can just confirm the time nearer the time.
Oh. Absolutely. I love that. We don't always have to have that standing meeting that we've arranged, right? Sometimes it's not actually necessary. So yeah, whittle down and declutter your meetings. I found lately that is especially a problem with all of these Zoom interviews and meetings that's happening. They don't always have to happen.
No, exactly. As you say, Kristine, sometimes it's easier just to send an email or WhatsApp or get it done quickly, especially if you don't have to spend a 30-minute meeting. And also, sometimes I feel you have a meeting, you start talking about other things as well, and then it just makes the meeting even longer. Yeah. So yes, definitely. And Kristine, I just want to touch on that fact of organizing your files. I mean, how many of us has had where you say copy of copy or final version 1 or final version 2? So it is really important to make sure that you do have your files ordered and that you aren't working on the correct version. It just makes you take even more longer to get done what you need to do. So tell me, is there any other tips that you can share with us?
So look at what's draining your time. If you're doing things manually, is there a system that could take on the manual burden and speed things up, such as automation and engaging the right support for these time draining tasks? If you feel like there's a better way of doing things, there probably is.
Absolutely. And I know we've discussed mind mapping and standard operating procedures many times on our sessions, but just getting things out on paper really helps to get rid of some of those time-consuming and unnecessary tasks that maybe should be looked at and changed and automated and improved. And if people keep asking you for the same thing over and over again, maybe it should be going on your website as a frequently asked question, or maybe an automatic response or something along those lines that will help people to easily find that information.
Yeah, Kristine, I love that. That automated response, or something that the Q&A often asked questions, because you do find that you get those repetitive questions and you are spending more and more time trying to answer these, when actually there's a more efficient and more productive way to do that. So I really do like that idea. And then I personally cannot believe that we are in December soon. It's nearly Christmas. It's nearly the month of end of the year. So this year has really flown by. And next month, we'll be talking about delivering innovative solutions. So I would highly recommend you tune in next month as well. And it is a great opportunity to learn more. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Thank you, Taryn, for joining us. Thank you, Julie, for logging in and for having a conversation with us again this week. Just want to add on to what Taryn said. I received an email during this week about people doing their 90-day plan for 2022. I almost fell off my chair. I was like, what are we already? At that time, I've just done my last quarter's planning and they were already planning for 2022. But I really want to encourage you guys, if you are in a similar situation to myself and maybe even Julie and Taryn, just thinking about 2022 can sometimes become a little bit overwhelming. So you might want to just reflect back on some of the sessions that we've previously done about planning and, just making sure that you've got something plotted out for next year. It doesn't have to be the whole year, it can just be for 90 days. And that is really where you're going to be able to get the most of the action points out. So maybe just in our comments, we'll also add in some links just as a flashback to a previous session. Cool. Okay, great. Thank you very much for joining in. Join us next month for another hashtag Taryn. There we go. Hashtag productivity. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
This podcast has been brought to you today by UPvisor and Blue Ninja. UPvisor, your strategic financial partner of choice to improve your productivity and profitability. Visit upvisor.co.za to unlock your full potential. Blue Ninja, your online business management team for streamlining and improving your business functionality. Visit blueninja.eu because every business needs a ninja.